This is, 75% plagiarism. Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to a video in which I'm going to predict the books that are going to be on the Women's Prize for Fiction long list here in 2025. Never done this before. Really am not qualified to do it right now, as you'll find out as we go along. So part of my problem with doing this list is I don't actually read enough kind of front list books to come up with 16 books written by women that were published in 2024 to end of March 2025. So what I'm doing is I'm just like cheating off of other people who've made these videos. Some of these books, the first books I'm talking about are books I have actually read, and so I do something I actually know something about. The others are books I picked because other people picked them, and like I said, I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. So the first book on my list is Color Television by Danzy Senna. I read this book in December, and I really, really liked it. And it asks a lot of questions, and it creates a real kind of social dilemma that is something that I haven't had to think about a lot in my life because I'm not a mixed race person. And this book kind of follows a mixed race woman who's a mother of two, who's married to an artist. And it kind of explores the difficulties of being a mixed race person in the United States of America. And in a lot of ways, which lane to go in. Do you get in a lane of rejecting white society? Do you get in the lane of trying to, be a part of white society? Do you try to carve your own lane somewhere in the middle? And I just thought it was really good. The main character is a novelist who's been working on her second novel for a long time. She kind of has had a little bit of writer's blocks, her sophomore jinx going on. And finally she hits on this idea and she writes it and she sends it in to her editor and her agent, and they don't like it. And that kind of causes everything that she's planning on doing, everything that she hoped she would be able to establish, to kind of spin out of control. And it leads her into all kinds of directions. And I thought the book was really good. So the second book I'm choosing for the Women's Prize Long List 2025 is Clear by Karis Davies. Now I read this book and I did a review on it in one of my monthly kind of or weekly wrap-up videos, and I have kind of mixed feelings about it. I think it is beautifully written. I think the characters that it creates are incredibly powerful, enjoyable, complete characters. There was just one problem I had with the way the story worked out, which just seemed, I'm not going to say impossible, but I will say improbable for everybody involved, for all the characters involved to react in an incredibly positive way that they did. But I thought the book was beautiful. It has other things going for it. One is that it's really short, and I have a feeling, or one of the things I oftentimes like to do when I'm aware is to pick a short book when I'm predicting, to pick a short book, because I figure the judges have to read so many books that a short book that's beautifully written, that has captivating characters, might be the kind of book they want to put on the list. The third book I have that I've read that I put on the list is Big Red by Louise Erdrich. Big Louise Erdrich fan, so I bought this book as soon as I could, and I read it relatively quickly, again near the end of 2024, and I liked it. I think it's a good book. It's not anywhere near one of my favorite books by Louise Erdrich. I think that for me, some of the environmental messaging is a little heavy-handed, but the story itself I thought was entertaining, and entertaining in a way that sometimes Louise Erdrich is, and sometimes she isn't. In this case, there is kind of a mystery at the heart of this book, which follows a young woman and her marriage to a man who she might love, and her thoughts and potential relationship about another young man who she might love and who definitely loves her, and her mother and her father's strained relationship, and kind of all this kind of small town stuff going on in the book. I thought it was really entertaining. I thought it was really gripping in lots of places. I thought the characters were, absolutely, in many cases, really well drawn Louise Erdrich characters. That little bit of blend of magical realism, or should we say maybe Indigenous American religious belief mixed in, and just, a good book. For me, not a great book, but Erdrich has been nominated before. I don't think she's ever won the Women's Prize, so here she has an entry, and I thought it might be safe to put her on the list. The fourth book I have on the list is The Safekeep by Yael Vanderwoden. This book was, I believe, shortlisted for the Booker Prize. It got a lot of people read it. I read it, and I really liked it. Again, this is a book which there's kind of a mystery at the heart of it, and I'm probably enjoyed the book more because I'm a little bit of a naive reader. When I read a book, I'm not necessarily trying to figure it out. I'm not trying to piece together clues. I wait for the book to kind of evolve and show me, what it's about and what its meaning is. And this book has this. It involves a woman who is living in her family home, which actually belongs to her older brother. She lives there, takes care of it. And she is really possessive and obsessed with this home. One of her other brothers who, is a bit of a, maybe in the past, tomcat. He has lots of relationship with lots of different women. One day she meets one of these women, and her brother more or less invites this woman to stay with her in the family home. And we had this really tense relationship between those two. And as a part of that relationship evolving, we then get more and more clues about, the mystery that's the heart of the novel. And I think it worked out really well. I think it reveals itself very well. So I'm putting that on the list. And then the fifth book, and these are the only 5 of the 16 books that I've actually read, is There Are Rivers in the Sky by Alif Shafak. This was just a really engaging, enjoyable, entertaining, moving read involving 3 characters who are connected by a drop of water which falls on the head of the Assyrian king right before the destruction of Nineveh and his death. And then that same drop of water recycles through the water cycle to fall into the mouth of a baby, a young male baby who's born on the banks of the Thames River in 1840. It is a drop of water that's given to a young Yazidi woman who is trying to escape from ISIS. It's a drop of water that affects another young woman who's a scientist and her struggles with her family. And all these things are tied together in all kinds of thematic ways. And I thought it worked really, really well, and it was a really compelling read. And I would be surprised if that book isn't on this list. Anyway, so there you go. There are the 5 books that I've actually read of the 16. So the rest of these books I just got from watching other people's prediction videos. So that's what I meant when I said I plagiarized about 75% of this video, because that's about right. So I watched a lot of videos from people who I follow who were predicting the Women's Prize long list that have come out recently. And I just picked a book from each one of their videos, in some cases 2 books from their videos, which I thought sounded like books that might make it. So, here we go. The first of those books, which I haven't read, is The Lost Love Songs of Boise Sing by Ingrid Persaud. This was a book that EricKarlAnderson said he thought would be on his list in his prediction video on his channel. I've read, Love After Love by Ingrid Persaud, which I really liked. I just read that recently. So this seemed like a good pick, and so I put it on the list. Also, in that video, you may know that Eric always does these videos with I believe a children's or a middle grade author named Anna James comes on, and she gives her predictions. And it's a really great video where they talk back and forth about books. And the book that she picked was Nesting by Roisin O'Donnell. This is an Irish novel I know absolutely nothing about, but I do know that Irish authors frequently find their books on book prizes, like the Women's Prize and the Booker Prize. So if it's good enough for Anna James, definitely good enough for me. Another book that on the list, or that I predict being on the list, is The Coin by Yasmin Zaher. This was picked by Gemma over at Gemma Books. She and I usually have very different tastes. Doesn't mean that she's not good at picking or making predictions. This is a book, I believe, about a Palestinian woman living in New York City who gets involved in making and selling counterfeit bags. It just sounded strange and niche enough to maybe make the list. Plus the cover's got a really cool picture on it. Next book I picked from another video is Mouthful of Salt by Reem Ghaffar, I believe. This book was picked by Ben over at Ben Reads Good. He had divided his video up into categories of books he thought might make the list, and this was one of his picks that was published by an indie press. I just like the title, Mouthful of Salt. I know zero about it. Ben picked it. I'm putting it on my list. Okay, so the next book on my list is Good Girl by Aria Aber. This was picked by Ranier over at the channel Ranier Reads. And I have no reason to pick it other than he seemed to think it was the kind of book which would make the list. And so I'm going to pick that book as well. I also picked Universality by Natasha Brown. This was one of the 2 books that Charlie from Charlie Book Reads put on her list. Charlie and I oftentimes have similar reading tastes, so I thought I would choose 2 books from her list. One is this book, Universality. Again, I know nothing about it. And so the second book I picked from Charlie's video is a little, A Little Trickery, which I believe is a historical fiction set sometime in medieval England's history. And so, I thought, oh, well, it's historical fiction. Maybe this will be their one historical fiction choice, and Charlie seemed to think it would make the list, so I picked it too. The next book on my list is The Anthropologist by Aysgul Savas. This was picked by Jess over the channel Stalking Kafka. Really love Jess's taste in her video, and a lot of times we agree. So she picked The Anthropologist. It was the book I swear I know even less about than the others, so I put it on my list. 3 more books to go. Couldn't leave out Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. I watched his prediction video, and he picked And So I Roar by Abidare. And this is the sequel to The Girl with the Louding Voice, I believe. He picked it, and he worried a little bit that they might not choose it because it is a sequel. But, as he pointed out, and as others have pointed out, they frequently do put sequels on prize lists. And so I thought, this is my choice for a sequel. So I put And So I Roar on the list. Trusting Scott here. The next book on my list is The City Changed Its Face by Eimer McBride. This was picked by Camilla at Hasty Books. In her prediction video, I know nothing about it other than her choosing it. And then the last book I put on my list is All Fours by Miranda July. I chose this book because I saw a review that Marc Nash did on his channel in which he reviewed the book positively. It's a book that got a lot of buzz here in the United States. I believe it's one of the finalists for the National Book Awards. It did not win, but Marc liked it, and his review of it actually kind of changed my mind about whether or not I would read it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to put it on the list. So there you go. What I've attempted to do here then is just to, create a list of mine based on the list of other people, and then kind of see how I do in comparison to all these other individuals by stealing choices from their lists. I don't know how I'm going to do. I'm guessing I'll be 0 for 16, but maybe 1 for 16. But anyway, I thought this would be fun, and be fun to see how it comes out after the long list is announced on March the 3rd. Let me know what you think of my choices in the comment section down below. I'll leave links to everybody's video down below as well. And as always, thank you for watching.